Okay, very welcome, guys and girls. I'm so glad to be able to do this for the first time. Sometimes things have to happen to push you into a certain direction, and I'm so happy and so amazing that you have decided to take this time and join me tonight, because with everything happening in the world at the moment, there's so much going on at the moment, and even in South Africa, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think the idea tonight is to basically have a look at how our bodies respond to all of this. We're not going to get into the deep biology of this, but the idea is to have a better understanding, or just to get to see what happens on the inside, and then also, and then just to have a look and see how we can make it better. Because where we are at the moment is we're in a certain phase of all of this, and you can see the countries as they go online with the virus, starts to go through the same kind of patterns. So, what are we talking tonight? What are we talking about? Tonight we're talking about what happens when shit happens. And we know that at the moment, that's exactly what happens. If you look at the world, you look at what's happening, a huge amount of uncertainty, a huge amount of panic is setting in. And we're all having seen quite interesting and fascinating jokes, because everybody is all of a sudden buying toilet paper, and it's quite interesting. I still don't understand why that happens, but yeah. So the moment shit happens, something happens in our body, guys. And this is a big thing. When something in our environment changes, it affects us, and it affects us in many ways. Now, this can be many different things. This can be a virus, it can be a relationship, it could be many other things. Breakup in a relationship, it could be a loss of a spouse or a partner or a family member. The moment that happens, in that instance that happens, that first phase we go through is, oh my word, is this really happening? Now, I'm sure most of you have been in that phase, like, is this for real? Is this really happening? The first phase is denial. You get to a point you realize, oh my word, this is not happening. Is this happening? Is this for real? It's a phase where you start to look at things. You've just got the news. You just know, okay, something not so nice has happened. And then that second phase is you start to negotiate. You start to ask yourself, is this for real? Is there something I can do to avoid this? That whole conversation around that. And you know that process, because if you look at where we are, a lot of times we are saying, is this happening? Is this for real? We start to look at media, we start to look at newspapers, all kinds of stuff, and we're not sure. We're getting so much information that it's information overload. We don't know what to do with all this information, but we start to negotiate. Okay, it's not going to happen to me. I'll be okay. It's still in another country, etc. And then that third phase comes in, where you start to realize it's starting to impact on you. It's starting to impact on your business. It's starting to impact on your way that you can move. It's starting to impact on how you can buy, who you can interact with, etc. So it becomes a process where you start to get angry. You start to feel a little bit, and anger is a, as you know, protective mechanism. And as we go along, when we get to that angry phase, we get into a phase where we start to just feel depressed. And that's the time where we start to not want to do things. We start to not want to go out. We start to reflect inside. It's a point of time where you just don't want to do anything. The things that you enjoy normally, it's no longer enjoyable. You hit that phase of not wanting to do stuff, that depression. And it's only when we get through these phases that we can get to a point where we can find resolution. And the interesting part about these first four phases is that we can go from the one to the next. It can take days, it can take weeks, it can take years. That's the interesting part of this, depending on what's happening. What's happening at the moment, I think we're on a curve where this happens quickly. But then when we go further, we get to a phase where we start to accept what is happening. Now, only when we get to that phase, guys, are we able to change. Are we able to see and start to make plans? It's also a phase where I say you need to surrender. Because when you think about what's happening, there's a lot that's happening that we don't really have control over. Or so we seem we don't have. Just to give an idea of where you will be when that shit happens, what you will experience. But you will also experience something in your body. And this is the big thing. Everything that happens in your environment, every single thing, you are going to give a meaning. You are going to perceive in a certain way. And you're going to look at it in a certain way. And it's going to come at you in a certain way. And that process of giving it a meaning is going to change your physiology. It's going to change what happens in your body. It's going to change how you think, how you feel. It's just going to have a huge impact on you altogether. Now, that's why when that happens, I can say that there's a part of what happens you have control over. And when I made this slide, it was, it's so easy to stay calm and be safe, but your body is reacting. You can feel the tenseness in your body. You can feel, but what I'm trying to share with you tonight is that even though there's havoc around you, even though there's so much happening, and we're not just talking about the virus, we're talking about other stuff that's happening in our lives as well. And the same rules will apply. Your thoughts are key to this, and your thoughts impact on your immune system. And this has been documented so many times in so many journals. So the question is, what happens when the fear and the panic and the stress hit you? When that uncertainty comes and gets hold of you, because you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know if you're going to go to work. You don't know what part of the world your kids are. You don't know if they need to come home, if they need to stay there. All kinds of things that starts to impact. A lot of uncertainty. So we all know about the autonomic nervous system. The moment something happens, your autonomic nervous system gets impacted. And you can noticeably see that the outside effects. You can see how people's pupils dilate, your mouth goes dry, your heart starts to beat faster, your muscles are more tense. There's so many things that happen in this moment. And when you're dealing with somebody that has just had a little bit of a jolt with fear, you can clearly see the signs of this. But that's only on the outside. What happens on the inside is way, way worse. Because what happens on the inside, where the real damage gets done. Because for your body to cope with the outside stuff that happens, it needs to manage its resources, like any good business. And what do? We allocate resources to the more important areas of our business, and in this case, our body. You have more adrenaline, your blood pressure rises, more cortisol, you need more glucose for the energy in your muscles. There's a lot that's happening in the background. So your autonomic nervous system gets hammered, and this is automatic. So people would say, I'm okay, but you feel that in your body, you sense that in your body, and that's the difficult part. And the problem with this over time, if you hold on to this for too long, then it creates, and it has a huge impact on your nervous system. This is a classic fight and flight response. But what we want to do is we want to engage a relaxation response, and we're going to get into that later tonight briefly, just so you understand why that is so important. Now, fear. Fear is something that we need. Now, think about this. If we didn't have fear, we wouldn't be able to respond to immediate danger. So fear is an absolute necessity. We need that. We need to respond in a way that we can be safe. Now, think about what's happening in the world at the moment. Fear is there, but fear is there for us to respond and stay safe. But what happens inevitably with panic? You see how people panic at the moment. You go to the stores and all of a sudden there's no toilet paper, there's no hand sanitizer, there's certain things that's just not there. This is a problem. Now, the human species, me and you, are the only species that can actually, without there being real danger, we can trigger a stress response in our bodies. Without it actually being there. Now, this is an important thing to understand, because the moment you can activate the same autonomic nervous system by just thinking about it, that tells you something about how our bodies work. It also tells you about how you can utilize your mind and how you can think differently for you to be able to stay switched on. Because you can have what if thoughts and create the anxiety. What if this happens? What if this happens? And you can just amp up your stress even more. Or you can start to take your control back. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you tonight. Even amidst all of what's happening at the moment, there's so much you can do that you have control over. You need to ask yourself, who's really in control of all of this? That's a big question, and I'm sure you can speak with a conspiracy theorist amongst us, and there will be lots and loads of theories around this. But that's not where I want to go with this tonight. Where I want to go with this tonight is to say, who's in control, your environment or your mind? How can you apply your mind to allow yourself to survive, to get through this in a way that you get out on the other side even stronger? You can have a belief that this is really, really bad and nothing will come of this, or you can have a different belief. You can decide to look at this in a different way. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you. So, how does your mood affect your immune system? Now, on this point, there's been study upon study upon study, and it's been done over time many, 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 many times. And this study has been duplicated, replicated. And they found in the 80s, they did a study with medical students, about 75 medical students, and they looked at their T cells, your immune system. They took their blood and they measured them to see how stressed they are. Then they took the same students, and they did that before exam. Then they took the same students when they were in the exam period to see how they will act. And the interesting part is that their bodies started responding in a way that they didn't create all the immune cells that they needed. So therefore it had an impact on them, which is quite fascinating. This study has been repeated a number of times over time with more people even. And every single time they found that when the external factors impact on the internal factors, it does make a difference on your immune system. Because it impacts on your heart, it impacts on your digestive system, and it impacts on your immune system. Because whatever happens in your external world, you give meaning. That's where we started tonight. So you can decide what the meaning is that you want to give this entire situation. And that will help your immune system to deal with this in a different way. It might even help you to create a better immune system for you to cope with the situation better. Because if you're going to put stress on your system, and the interesting part is that older people or people who already are fairly ill, for them it will be when you have more stress, your immune system is even more compromised. Now this might be a scary thought because I'm tying something together tonight. I'm tying in your thoughts and your immune system. And that can be a scary thing because now people will say to me, oh, but then now you're really scaring me because I must be careful of my thoughts. What if I have negative thoughts? That's automatically going to impact on my immune system. Yes, to a certain extent that's true. But what I'm trying to show you tonight is when you change the meaning you give things and you start to look at it in a different way, you'll find that you can actually make a huge difference to your immune system in a positive way. So how do you do that? How do you strengthen your immune system? How do you get to stop all of this? Because it's a virus, it's there. What do we do? Now we all know, we've all had biology, and some of us might be much, much more clever in terms of how the immune system works than I am. But the fact of the matter is, there's ways that you can help your immune system to cope with any onslaught in a much better way. What's the first thing we did when we heard about what was going on? We started going on Facebook, we started going on media, and you just start to realize the pandemonium that just started to happen. And we were willing to listen. Now, psychology tells us that when we are in a state of panic, fear, uncertainty, we want somebody or something to put our minds at ease. But the problem with that is we're willing to listen to just about anything and everything, and because of that, we start to get all kinds of messages, messages. And I don't know about you, but at this point in time, with all the information overload, it becomes too much because you don't know what's true anymore. You don't know who you can trust anymore. The big thing here is to ask yourself, how can I guard my mind? How can I help myself to be able to make sure that I only allow into my mind, who will I listen to? Who's reputable? What am I willing to do? Now the problem is, and I've already noticed that with a lot of people around me, people are starting to say, hang on a second, I don't want to be part of the mass hysteria. So we're starting to turn social media off. We're starting to turn certain information lines off so that we don't spend 90% of our days looking at what's bombarding our nervous system. So we're starting to get to a point where we are selectively looking at what we can use. And the interesting thing about this is, if you think about it, when you want good advice and sound advice, you don't just go to anybody. You go to somebody that you trust. You go to somebody that you believe has value to offer. So guard your mind. Well, that's where we need to start. And then the big one, control the controllables. Now, I purposely picked this picture with the archer there because archery is a very interesting sport because the archer has to control so much. But the moment the archer lets go of that arrow, he or she no longer has control over it. And I've spoken to a lot of archers, and I deal with some really good archers, and some of them are world champions. And it's amazing to see how much control you need to have for you to let go of that arrow to hit the target. And it's amazing for me to see that at 70 meters, which is a long distance, even with some of the wind blowing, that people can still hit the middle of that target. Now, can you imagine how much control you need to have over that? So even though the elements are against you, even though there's so much against you, there's so much you can still control. So look at what you can control. What do you have control over? There's so much. You have control over what you read. You have control over what you eat. You have control over your movement. You have control over your thoughts. The exercise on this point would be just every day, take 3 things that you have control over and focus on that. And every new day you start with something new, and you'll be amazed at the end of the week how many things you actually do have control. And when you start that, looking at the controllables, you'll be quite amazed how that spiral just takes you in a different way. Takes you out of the negative media frenzy that we have. This is something that has come to me in quite a fascinating way, but use your breath. It's something that we all know. But when you use your breath in a way that can actually help your nervous system, increase your ability to deal with viruses. Study has shown when we are able to breathe in a certain way, your body is more alkaline, your body is more oxygenated, and that helps you to deal with things so much better. I don't know about you, if you can do a simple breathing exercise every day, it doesn't take really that long, wouldn't that be really easy for you to do? Now, there's this gentleman, and you can Google this, and I would actually encourage that you do, called Wim Hof. Now, he's been doing this for many, many years and holds over 20 world records. We call him the Iceman, and he swims in cold water, in water that me and you would not even be able to breathe in. And how is he able to do that? He does that with simple breathing exercises. And by doing that, he bypasses his critical faculty, what we talk about. And he gets his immune system to be activated in a much, much better way. That would be something that you can really, really exercise your body. Now, this is the interesting one because I deal with a lot of athletes, as you guys may know. And all of a sudden, your space to move has become much, much, much less. Even saying that, or even when you're just exercising at home, you're already building your system up. Because you're no longer bombarding your system with these negative signals, I'm sick, I can't move. It's no longer like that. It's all of a sudden, the body gets exercised, the body feels better, it builds, it's stronger. Exercise helps your body to just get all the good hormones going. And when that happens, your immune system is being boosted all the time. Nourish your body. Start to eat the right foods. Vitamin C, vitamin D. These are the ones that I've been told helps with a lot of things. Vitamin C is important because our bodies are stressed. We need that. Vitamin D, we need the sunlight. Now remember we spoke about the fight and flight in the beginning of our talk tonight, where I showed you the autonomic nervous system and how it works. And how it in effect shuts your certain parts of your body down to protect the vital organs. But now what happens if you do this and you have fear, stress, anxiety, trauma over time, and you continuously have thoughts of that? Your autonomic nervous system is hammered. And you can just do a quick and easy test. You can just allow yourself to become aware of pains in your body. headaches, indigestion, shoulders, stiff shoulders, irritation, irritability, short-temperedness, lack of concentration, insomnia, lack of focus. These are the kind of things that will make you realize that there's something wrong, but it's also an indication that you have activated your fight and flight response for too long and you're in survival mode. So the quick and easy to get out of this, I've given you a few tips already, but the big one, and the one that is most probably the easiest to do of the lot, and you can do this anywhere you want, you can do this in the morning and the evening, it's easy to do, is meditation. Because through meditation, you are able to engage the relaxation response. Exercise does the same. Yoga does the same. But this is one, and a lot of you guys that have already been to the talks that I've done, you know that we normally end our session with the 4 steps. And it's easy to do, because when you meditate and when you allow yourself to just relax your body, relax your mind, you get into a different altered state. Now, what's nice about this is there's twice a day you're naturally in that state. You're in that state more often. But when you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning, you're automatically in a bit of a theta state. And that's the time to utilize that. That's the time to allow yourself to go into that calm, relaxing state. And all you need to do, you don't even need to do a really, really difficult meditation. You can just do a progressive relaxation. Just focus on your breathing, start from the top of your head, and just with every exhalation, just relax a part of your body. I mean, it's easy to do. You start at the top of your head, relax the space between your eyes, relax your eyes, all the tiny muscles, your cheeks, your neck, and you work down until you get to the tip of your toes. Progressive relaxation, easy. Every exhalation, you relax another body part. Close your eyes, listen to soothing music. You'll be amazed how 10, 20 minutes of that can rejuvenate your body. Can rejuvenate your body not just on the surface level, but on a cellular level. So I'm hoping that you can see that there's so much you can do. And maybe you already noticed that you have more control than what you can imagine. And at this time, and I'm sure a lot of people can say, yeah, let's look at the opportunities, let's look at how this can change our lives, this is for the better. It's difficult to think that when you're in the hole. It's difficult to think that when you see what's going on around you. It's difficult to function when there's certain restrictions on you. But with all of that said, with all of that restrictions, with all of that outside of your control, when you change the way you think, everything can change. So I'm hoping that you guys will take this to heart and will realize that there's actually more that you can do.